digital image correlation, one or more cameras take a series of images as a specimen deforms. Measurements are taken by precisely analyzing the position of unique groups of speckles on the surface of the object as it moves through successive images. Using an optimal speckle pattern is one of the most important factors in reducing measurement noise and improving overall DIC results. Therefore, understanding the requirements of an ideal speckle pattern and how to apply one to a specimen is a vital part of DIC. In this tutorial, we briefly discuss the theoretical background of DIC, then we'll cover the general speckle pattern requirements and outline some common application methods. In DIC, a mesh of small subsets of the image are tracked as the specimen moves and deforms. To perform this tracking, the subsets are shifted until the pattern in the deformed image matches the reference image as closely as possible. This match is calculated by the total difference in gray levels at each pixel within the subset. In general, the speckle pattern needs to deform with a sample and not reinforce it, and it must hold up to testing conditions like temperature, moisture, and acceleration. In addition, to provide quality tracking information, DIC speckle patterns should also feature the following characteristics. High contrast. The pattern should feature either dark black dots on a bright white background or bright white dots on a dark black background. The higher the contrast, the better. 50% coverage. A good pattern has roughly equal amounts of white and black on the surface. For example, if the speckles are 5 pixels in size, they should be approximately 5 pixels apart from one another. Consistent speckle sizes. Ideally, speckles should be 3 to 5 pixels in size to optimize the spatial resolution, but the most important thing is that the speckles are consistent in size and not too small. Less than 3 pixels in size is too small and can cause aliased results. Isotropic and stochastic. The speckle pattern should not exhibit a bias in any particular orientation, and it should be random. While it is difficult to achieve a pattern regular enough to cause false matching, if you print repeating patterns, it can occur. Ideal speckle size depends on many factors, including specimen size, camera specifications, and research conditions. If the pattern has speckles that are too large or if it is too sparse, we find that certain subsets may be entirely on a region of black or a region of white. This prevents good correlation because everywhere in that region is an exact match. We can compensate for this by increasing the subset size, but this is done at the cost of spatial resolution. Conversely, if the pattern is too small, the resolution of the camera may not be enough to accurately represent the specimen. In information terms, we call this aliasing. Instead of appearing to move smoothly as the specimen deforms, the pattern will show jitter as it interacts with the sensor pixels, and the resulting images often show a pronounced moire pattern. To avoid the risk of aliasing while still maximizing spatial resolution, we try to apply speckles that are 3 to 5 pixels in size. However, in doing so, we often end up with some of the speckles falling in the 1 to 2 pixel range, especially when using application methods that are harder to control. For this reason, we suggest aiming slightly larger when in doubt. Speckles should be visible as distinct features as opposed to random black and white noise. Note that these guidelines for sizes are in terms of pixel size. Using a higher resolution camera or smaller field of view will require a pattern that looks finer than a pattern required for a lower resolution or larger field of view. For example, for a 10-inch field of view, using a 1 megapixel camera with a 1000 by 1000 pixel sensor, each pixel covers 0.01 inches. So a good speckle size would be 0.05 inches. For the same field of view, using a 16 megapixel camera with a 4000 by 4000 pixel sensor, each pixel is 0.002 inches. So a good speckle would be 0.01 inches in size. Remember, the quality of the speckle pattern has a direct result on the effectiveness of the test. The following are some examples of speckles that fail one or more of the requirements for good patterning. A good pattern will allow the correlation to be made with high confidence and produce low noise. In this example, we see stray noise and the correlation confidence sigma for a tensile specimen with different speckle patterns. The middle region illustrates the optimal pattern for this particular test, while the left and right regions are less adequate. Please note that every test is different, and much depends on the unique parameters of specific test conditions. If you have any questions, please contact our support team who are always ready to help. Starting with a clean, dry surface is important. A quick wipe with alcohol is a good idea before any painting. Acetone may be required for heavier deposits on metals. Some materials may require roughing of the surface using sandpaper to improve paint adhesion. Depending on the surface of the object, it is often necessary to apply a base coat to the surface prior to speckling. Typically, for most speckling methods, the surface of the specimen is coated white with several very light coats of matte spray paint. Satin or gloss paint can cause specular reflections, especially under intense lighting, and should be avoided. Some paint recommendations that are commonly available at most hardware stores include Rust-Oleum's Painter's Touch 2X, Flat Black and Flat White, and Krylon Flat Black. It's best to apply many coats very lightly, as heavy coats may lead to drips forming which change the shape of the surface. Wait until the base coat is completely dry before applying speckles. If the base coat is still wet, the speckles and base coat can blend, which reduces contrast and may result in the pattern appearing blurred in the images. After years of working with customers to speckle a wide variety of materials in very diverse conditions, Correlated Solutions created the VIC Speckle Pattern Application Kit to accommodate easy speckling for DIC. The VIC Speckle Pattern Application Kit contains an array of stamp rollers and rockers designed to consistently produce optimal speckle patterns. The rollers apply ink to the specimen by rolling dots onto the surface. The stamp rockers are pressed onto the specimen, or a specimen can be rolled over the unmounted stamp. The stamps and rollers have a range of dot sizes, so the correct speckle can be created depending on the camera resolution and field of view. To find out more about the Correlated Solutions VIC Speckle Pattern Application Kit, contact one of our sales engineers. While the VIC Speckle Pattern Application Kit is robust in the parameters it can meet, some objects are not conducive to either rollers or stamps. In these cases, one of a variety of other common speckle application methods should be considered. These include spray paint, black marker pens, and printed patterns. Spray paint is one of the easiest and most readily available methods to apply speckle patterns. It can be used with any intermediate-sized specimen and is usually a good choice for metal, ceramic, or composite specimens from around 1 inch or 25 millimeters to around 48 inches or 1.25 meters. For best results, use matte paints for the speckles as well. To create a fine pattern, apply high pressure on the nozzle with a longer standoff distance. It is a good idea to place a test surface adjacent to your sample and practice the amount of nozzle depression needed to make the desired speckle size. Then, quickly move the spray stream across the specimen. For larger fields, larger speckles must be produced. This can be accomplished by either modifying the spray nozzle or throttling the spray. One effective technique is to orient the surface horizontally and spray down onto it. If the spray nozzle is barely pushed down, large drops will come out and fall onto the surface. It is important to monitor these drops to ensure that they are not so large that they add surface geometry or cause runs. Using the larger dot size stamps or rollers in the VIC Speckle Kit or a stencil should be considered in these cases. Using spray paint typically produces a sufficient pattern, but the quality can vary a great deal. Due to the nature of spray paint, creating consistent speckle size is nearly impossible, and contrast is often reduced by fine mist effectively graying the base coat when the speckles are applied. Keep in mind, other speckling techniques should be considered when the specimen would be stiffened or chemically altered by the spray paint itself. Applying speckles with a black marker is another technique for creating good speckle patterns. This technique affects the surface minimally and allows for measurement of very high strain. It also allows for very controlled speckle size and is ideal for specimens with complex geometry. Simply dot the surface of the specimen with a marker to create dots of the desired size. Several sizes are available: ultrafine, extrafine, fine point, and bold. A white base coat with black markers provides excellent contrast. It is also possible to use a silver-colored marker to apply dots to a black base coat or surface. While a non-permanent marker can be used in some situations, test conditions might require the use of a permanent option in others. For medium to large surfaces, printing speckle patterns can be effective. This technique has been used with specimens from 1 inch, 25 millimeters, to over 12 feet, or 4 meters. Patterns can be generated using a free speckle pattern generator, which can be downloaded from the Downloads page on the Correlated Solutions website. Find the link in the description below. The pattern can be adjusted in density, dot size, variation, and field size. Print such a pattern onto vinyl or adhesive labels, making sure it adheres to the specimen well enough to deform with the surface. Be careful of any slipping or folding that could cause measurements to not accurately represent the behavior of the actual surface. Local strains will be difficult to represent if your printed pattern material is not specifically designed to deform with the surface. While the common methods of applying a speckle pattern are often sufficient, there are many cases where more application-specific solutions are needed to create good patterns. In subsequent tutorials, we'll cover in greater detail the specific challenges that arise when the test subject is unusually large or small, comprised of difficult geometry like complex lattice structures, or tested under extreme conditions of heat, strain, or moisture. The goal of this tutorial has been to provide a general guideline for DIC speckling, but we encourage you to think outside the box and find your own speckling strategy. Remember, very good results have been achieved in specimens and patterns that fall far out of the guidelines presented here. For help with challenging specimens and techniques, or for information about analyzing difficult or poorly prepared images, please feel free to contact our support team at support@correlatedsolutions.com or by clicking the QR code here. We'll be happy to evaluate options for preparation and analysis for the best achievable results. Thank you for watching, and good luck with your speckling.